Hi, this is Hsing-ay and welcome to the Nutmeg studio in New York City. One of the things I enjoy helping my students with is to strategize the right priorities at the right time. Just like in playing a chess game, there are different stages of the game. With the opening moves, we want to set an emotional intention. With the mid-game, we want to make everything really polished and clean and experiment with different interpretations. With the end game, it's all about delivering the message, the communication to the audience. Now, a problem often has several different factors to it. It's not usually just one simple reason. And so we want to have multiple options, multiple solutions in order to sense what is the best way forward, what is the best possibility for a particular moment. And in this clip that you're going to see, Mary shares her frustrations in this transition between the mid-game of working on spots and then the end game of having continuity, having a focused energy for the audience. And so I talk about several different things that she can try to work on to get herself transitioned into that end game frame of mind. Thank you.
And I'd like to, finish it off sometime in the future. And have it ready for recital. It's not ready for recital today, but I really would like to have it ready to go. It's just such a powerhouse piece that it's hard, to really to know how to practice it exactly in all the spots. And you've been, of course, helpful with all the spots that we've worked on, but you can't work on the whole thing in one lesson. So not
Yeah.
yet.
Well, yeah, thanks for sharing all of that. I think that we talk a lot about how to prevent mistakes, but what we perhaps don't have time to talk about as much is that having the ability to go onwards and not stop and not go backwards and focus on what's coming up on the next downbeat is equally as important.
Right.
And so, Mary, if you're feeling like one thing is not where you want it yet, I just want to celebrate the part of you that is able to keep going through to the next downbeat. Because continuity is not something that we should just take for granted, right? So, now having said that, there are things that we can do to address keeping the focus so that there is no distractions. And one of it, I know this sounds counterintuitive, but one of it is to really focus on what is the character. Oftentimes, I think when we get nervous, it gets heavy and our muscles are overworking. And that's when things like we get stuck in a certain position instead of being able to be very quick in the release. And the quicker we are in releasing something, the more we have the focus to move on to the next gesture or the next character in the emotions and all of that. So I think that that probably the first thing that I would say in terms of prioritizing for your practice is just to think about how are you releasing what's happening? How are you releasing the last character and moving on to the subito piano section now? And how are you letting things go quicker than perhaps you are doing right now? The other part of performing something that is so technical is that I would spend probably 95% of the time playing under tempo in very disciplined, goal oriented ways. And so when we're practicing new things, I like to say try it out in tempo, like just a beat at a time, whatever. Just see how things are, right? Because it feels different But then when we're at the end stage of performance, it is really important to slow everything down and remember how they felt when they were super slow, because that's where we get the control. So sometimes things are kind of the opposite of what you would expect. When you first start learning, you want to get a sense of what it's going to feel like in the end. And when you're at the end, you want to remember how it feels to really think through every motion in your hand. So, is that all making sense so far?
Oh yeah, definitely. And uh, I I I understand going slower than tempo, but I had also not had my practice time build up to 2 hours when this started 2 weeks ago. So
Uh-huh.
that being said, I didn't want to do too much. But yes, absolutely. And I was still teaching the last few weeks, so it's hard to fit things in. But
Sure.
yeah, absolutely. The slow practice helps. Sometimes though, it's hard for when I speed it up for my brain to catch up with imaging ahead to those notes that are ahead. And that's something that I was really guilty of, especially on these little waterfall things. And so that seemed to be a common place where I had those memory slips was on those waterfalls because I'd get up there and I'd be rushing through them because I'm thinking, now I'm gonna miss a note. And then my brain was just not catching up with my fingers. I don't know. Maybe that doesn't make sense, but um,
Sure.
I really did need to focus on those more, and I just didn't have, the time this week. But
Well, Mary, as someone who's taking care of your family and then teaching as well and then performing a really, really, really difficult piece, I think absolutely it should feel just great, and we can like stop right here. So I'm really proud of the work you've put in here, and I know that you have definitely lightened up on some of the things like that big stretto octave stuff before the tempo. So here, oh sorry, that stuff came out super clean and light and rhythmic. And I was so excited to hear the stretto, because the moments of chaos, or when we want to present chaos, is the most risky stuff, and it has to depend on your practicing. So obviously you were doing exactly the right thing there.
oh, thank you.